Good day. Today I'll be presenting the differences between the classical and Keynesian school. This video is entitled Classical versus Keynesian, which will be presented by me, Brianna Ditudum. Let's get started. We cannot start this video without firstly discussing the definitions of these two schools. Firstly, we will discuss what is the classical economic theory. Classical economic theory is the belief that a self-regulating economy is the most sufficient and effective because as need arise, people will adjust to serving each other's requirements. They believe in the theory of the invisible hand. However, the Keynesian economics harbors the thought that government intervention is essential to succeed. Keynesian economics believes that economic activity is influenced heavily by decisions made by both the public and private sector. Throughout the years, the foundation laid out for these two schools haven't changed drastically. However, these two schools have transformed due to economic events or due to new economics adding the existing theories. I will briefly discuss this diagram. Firstly, let's start off with the classicals. The classical transformed into the neoclassicals and then the new classicals. Below them, we can see the economists who added to these schools and also the economic activities which transformed these schools. Now we can look at Keynesians. Keynesians transformed into the neo-Keynesians and the new Keynesians, and likewise below them are also the economists who added to these schools and the economic activity. Example, between the new Keynesians and the neo-Keynesians, we can see the 1970 stagnation. So you may be wondering, what is stagnation? So stagnation is a situation that occurs within an economy when total output is either declining, flat, or growing slowly. Now we have arrived at the most interesting part of the video, which is discussing a few differences between these two schools. I gave a brief overview of these two schools because I want you to be a little familiar with the information you'll be seeing. So the first difference is the primary time horizon of analytical vision. This simply just states the time frame in which these two schools analyze the economy. Firstly, the classical school. They are focused on achieving long-term results by allowing the free market, which means no government intervention, to adjust to short-term problems. They see short-term issues as bumps on the road that will eventually dissolve on its own. Milton Friedman justified this belief by stating, "I don't try to forecast short-term changes in the economy. The record of economics in doing that justifies only humility." However, the Keynesians are completely different. Keynesians tend to focus more on solving short-term problems. They believe that getting the government to address these issues immediately will enhance the long-term growth of the economy. Now, John Keynes justifies this belief by stating, "Long run is a misleading guide to current affairs. In the long run, we are all dead." The second difference between these two schools are the emphasized side of the economy, which basically means which side of the economy do they study, whether it's the supply or the demand. Firstly, let's look at classical. The classical school believes supply creates its own demand. Production will generate an income enough to purchase all of the output produced. They rely on the wants of consumers to influence the fluctuation of price and hold the view that the market will adjust itself to any surpluses or shortages. Now let's look at the Keynesian view. Keynesian definition for which side of the economy they study is a little more technical, so I will try to explain it as I go. So the Keynesians believe firms produce output only if they expect it to sell. Thus, while the availability of the factors of production determines a nation's potential GDP, which means gross domestic product, the amount of goods and services actually being produced and sold, that is, real GDP, depends on how much demand exists across the economy. Suppose GDP is less than potential, then changes in aggregate demand, which is a fancier term for just saying demand, translate directly into changes in gross domestic product, with no change in the price level. In short, real GDP is determined only by aggregate demand and not aggregate supply. So based on these two explanations, we can see the classical school focuses more on the supply side of the economy, whereas the Keynesian school focuses more on the demand side of the economy. So here we can see a diagram of the supply and demand curve. On your right, you can see the demand curve, and then on your left, you can see an example of the supply curve. The third difference is the proposed tools to achieve the economic goals, which is a more technical term of saying the proposed theories for the economy to be at its best. The classical school belief in the principle of free market requires limited government intervention and allows the individual to act in the self-interest in the economic decisions. In contrast, the Keynesian principle believes that government should be involved in the economy to ensure impartiality and effectiveness. The next difference is government borrowing. The classical view stresses the importance of reducing government borrowing and balancing the budget because there is no benefit from high debt. However, the Keynesian view suggests that government borrowing may be necessary because it helps to increase overall aggregate demand, which then increases jobs. Now we have arrived to my favorite part of this presentation, which is the founders of these two amazing schools. We're firstly going to look at classical economics. Classical economics is a theory that Sir Adam Smith introduced in the course of the late 18th century and later became developed in the works of David Ricardo and John Mill. The thoughts of the classical theory, which was popular in economic education in Great Britain till about the 1870s, concentrated on boosting the economy and economic freedom, emphasizing laissez-faire patterns and free competition. Below this definition, you can see a portrait of Sir Adam Smith. Now let's look at the Keynesian economics. The British economist John Maynard Keynes initiated what we refer to as Keynesian economics in the course of the 1930s in the wake of the Great Depression. Keynes looked forward to a rise in government remuneration and lesser taxes to provoke demand and take the nation's economy out of the Great Depression. These men contributed to modern economics as we know it. Thank you for watching. I hope this video provided you very interesting information and was enlightening and you learned a few more things. I thank you for staying throughout the whole presentation. I hope to see you soon. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Bye.
Hi, my name is Brianna Ditterville. Thank you for watching my video. I really enjoyed creating the content, so I hope you enjoyed and you learned something new. Thank you.